It was night out by a village in Montana. There were reports of dangerous animals stealing the sheep from the farmers of the nearby village. Some of the people from the village had already tried to go out there themselves and deal with their creature problem, only to have their screams heard later that night, and then a fall of silence. So Hunter was contracted to deal with the problem, because of his earlier track record of dealing with dangerous creatures. Hunter is out one day tracking his prey through the woods. His tag-along is Imperial, a person who wouldn't stop begging that he could help and wanted to come along. Even though he has no prior knowledge on hunting animals, or generally likes being in the woods at all, given the fact that he's more of a city guy. He has been to summer camp, but he never really liked going out into the forest. Why did he decide to come now? Because he wanted to prove he could be helpful and that he is not a screw-up. But most people do not want to pair up with Imperial because apparently he's got a bad reputation for making horrible decisions. But luckily not very many people like Hunter either, so for Imperial this was the best that could happen because he wanted to prove he did not screw up. But for Hunter this was a horrible accident waiting to happen. Because Imperial would not leave Hunter alone until he allowed him to come with him. Earlier when I say best, I mean Hunter was like legit trying to make sure Imperial didn't die or get them both killed. Because Hunter ain't normal. Hunter is a monster hunter and he is currently hunting werewolves. Werewolves have exceptionally good smelling, hearing, and are extremely fast, so screwing up here could be fatal. That is why Hunter did not want to take Imperial with him, because of his track record, and also because he likes working alone. Hunter and Imperial are crouching through the bushes, Hunter being careful not to make any noise, and Imperial causing every bush he can to make noise without actually meaning to. Hunter glares at Imperial. Imperial gives a sheepish grin and shrugs his shoulders. They continue walking, hoping they do not draw attention to themselves, and are able to sneak up on their quarry when they reach them. Some time passes. They are about a few miles out from the werewolf's den. But Hunter spots something off in the distance, and it is a werewolf scout patrolling the area. Hunter ducks for cover and pulls down Imperial, who has no idea what's going on, but then tells Imperial through random sign language that there's a werewolf off in the distance. Imperial has no idea what's going on with the sign language and just gets up and says, "I don't see anything," at the top of his lungs, not really thinking that there was any danger out there. I mean, how could he? It's night and the werewolf has black fur. Hunter is horrified and at the same time fuming angrily. But all that's on his face is a blank expression of being flabbergasted. Hunter then immediately pulls Imperial back into the bush, covering his mouth and hoping the werewolf can't smell them. The werewolf comes over to them after hearing Imperial loudly shout and begins to sniff the air to see if he can find anything. Hunter's heart pounds in his chest as him and Imperial both stare at the face of a male werewolf right above them. They both don't even breathe, so that way they hope the werewolf won't even notice them. Several agonizing minutes later, werewolf leaves. Hunter and Imperial take a sigh of relief, only for the werewolf to immediately dive its maw into the bush. Hunter and Imperial barely roll away in time before the werewolf notices that they escaped. Hunter gets up on his feet and prepares his weapon. He chooses his crossbow over his sword, favoring distance rather than close range. Imperial then stands up and says, "Holy crap, that's a werewolf." Hunter, who feels like he should be used to this by now, looks straight in Imperial with a glare and a mixture of anger, worry, and just straight horror that he keeps doing stuff like this. Hunter aims his crossbow at the werewolf, who is facing Imperial, as he just yelled at the top of his lungs. Imperial fearing for his life because he wasn't thinking when he yelled earlier both times. Hunter then fires his crossbow at the werewolf and then starts yelling at him to look at him and chase him, to give Imperial time to prepare himself to fight the werewolf. Hunter leaps and dodges all the swipes from the werewolf's claws gracefully. He jumps backwards and lands on his feet and shoots the werewolf again, greatly enraging the mighty beast. Imperial prepares his crossbow that Hunter gave him for this mission. He runs at the werewolf, but right before he reaches the werewolf, he trips over a rock and accidentally shoots his crossbow bolt into the sky. Werewolf hears this and turns around, but before anything else happens, a bird hits the ground. Everyone then stares and gets a good look at the bird. It was a bald eagle. And Hunter is horrified, and he just stands there with a blank, shocked expression with his weapon lowered and his guard down. The werewolf takes his time to try to attack Hunter, but Imperial sees this and starts rapid firing at the werewolf, but hitting nothing but trees and the surrounding area around him, and then Hunter himself in the forehead. That is enough to snap Hunter out of his shock state and refocus on the task at hand. Hunter takes his crossbow and fires directly at the werewolf's heart. The werewolf bats off the first crossbolt. Hunter fires again and again and again, but the werewolf just keeps swatting them away. The werewolf keeps getting closer every time Hunter shoots his crossbow. Hunter takes steps back away, but the werewolf keeps getting closer. Imperial just stood over on the other side, just watching the exchange happen, forgetting he was supposed to be helping. Imperial takes his crossbow and fires at the werewolf, but misses him completely and hits Hunter again. Hunter screams in pain as he rubs his face, and the werewolf then turns to look at Imperial. Hunter uses this and takes a bolt and jabs it into the back of the werewolf right above where his heart is. Werewolf then screams out in pain. But before the werewolf moves, Hunter traps 2 crossbow bolts into his eye sockets and really just sticks them in there. The werewolf, now blind, strictly relies on a sense of smell and hearing to kill its targets. Imperial is still firing and trying to hit the monster, but not actually taking time to aim, just firing. Hunter says, "Can you actually try to aim instead of, just fire?" Imperial says, "I could try, but it might take longer." Hunter groans about how he has to deal with Imperial's incompetency. Hunter knows he can't just leave Imperial alone in the woods. That would be wrong, and Imperial would complain and whine until he took him with him again. Hunter goes for his Hail Mary and shoves in further the crossbow bolt he had placed over the werewolf's heart. The werewolf screams in pain more than it had done before. And then slowly the screams stop and it falls to the ground. Hunter and Imperial start taking deep breaths, thoroughly exhausted from the excitement they had just endured. Hunter then begins to try to move the werewolf's dead body. He asked Imperial for help. Imperial says, "Why are you moving its body?" Hunter says this werewolf has materials on him that can be made into good and sturdy things. Imperial looks disgusted at that thought, but helps Hunter anyway. They hide the werewolf's body inside nearby tree and cover it up with leaves and branches. Hunter then takes stock of their inventory and treats any wounds they got during the fight. They go back over to the bald eagle, and then Hunter slaps Imperial and says, "Are you kidding me? You just shot a bald eagle." Imperial says, "Dude, I'm sorry, it was an accident." Hunter says, "An accident? We could go to juvie for when this is all over." Imperial pulls out his phone and then starts looking on the internet for answers. A few minutes later, he says, "Hey Hunter, listen to this. If a person accidentally kills a bald eagle and can prove it was an accident, all you would have to do is pay a large fine, and you will not go to jail." Hunter takes a sigh of relief knowing that he and Imperial have enough capital to pay off such a large fine. They now deal with the eagle's body by hiding it in a burlap sack inside a hollow tree. They couldn't take it with them because the smell would attract the werewolves. They had to come back and get it later, so that Imperial can own up to his mistake. They then sit down for a few minutes to wait and relax. After about 10 minutes of sitting down and resting from their battle, they get up and start their journey again towards the werewolves' den. Later, after several hours of walking, they finally arrived at the mouth of the werewolves' den. Just as dawn was breaking over the mountains, they see the bones of the fallen scattered across the field in front of the cave. These blood-soaked bones with bits of flesh still stuck to them are all that's left of the former villagers who tried and failed to kill the werewolves before them. With bits of fabric scattered around where the bones lay stained red by blood. Hunter checks to make sure the clearing is safe before coming out of the bushes. They both then start walking towards the entrance to the cave. Right as they entered the mouth of the cave, Hunter puts his hand over Imperial's mouth, who had just inhaled, looks at Hunter, who says, "If you were just about to yell, Echo, I will kill you myself," with a stone-cold demeanor. Imperial looks at Hunter with a frightened expression, then exhales without yelling or making any other noise other than him exhaling, and start walking deeper into the cave up until they hear some yelping, and it turns out Imperial accidentally stepped on the paw of a werewolf pup. Both of them freeze as their blood runs cold, thinking one of the adult werewolves would awaken and come to attack them. They freeze standing in place and wait, but nothing ever comes other than quiet. So Imperial looks at his feet and sees the werewolf pup. Hunter says in a loud whisper, "Do Inti touch anything?" But Imperial says, "But they're so fluffy." Hunter shows an expression that he should be used to by now and goes a ghostly white-shocked expression on his face as Imperial rubs the sleeping baby werewolf pup against his face. Hunter looks like he might die right there. He doesn't know what to do and doesn't want to risk waking or hurting the pup, but doesn't want Imperial to continuously keep rubbing the pup against his face. The only thing he thinks of doing at this moment is asking nicely that Imperial to put the werewolf pup down. Imperial sees Hunter's face and obliges. After walking further into the cave, Hunter and Imperial come across the main sleeping area of the werewolves. Hunter pulls out his sword, which is made of silver. Imperial asks Hunter, "Why did you pull out your sword?" Hunter says, "We need to be pragmatic. We cannot take on all of these werewolves by ourselves. We need to be like Perseus with Medusa and kill them while they are sleeping." Hunter scans the pack laying on the cave floor and says with a horrifying look, "One is missing." "Well, the one is missing. We killed one earlier," said Imperial. Hunter replies, "Well, yes, the one we killed earlier, but also one other werewolf is missing." Imperial asks, "Okay, which was missing?" "Well, the one is missing. We killed one earlier," said Imperial. Hunter replies, "Well, yes, the one we killed earlier, but also one other werewolf is missing." Imperial asks, "Okay, which was missing?" Hunter says, "The alpha." He then replied saying, "Well, we can't worry about that right now. We have work to do." Hunter then systematically starts killing all the werewolves in the part of the cave they were standing in. When he was done, the only werewolves alive were the pups and the alpha. They put all of the werewolf carcasses in a pile in the center of the room to come back for them later. And after checking all over the cave, they could not find the alpha anywhere inside the cave. But they did find the pups again and put them in carrying crates to take out of the cave, because they couldn't bring themselves to harm them because they were just babies. But when they reached the mouth of the cave and had the light of the sunshine in their face, there they saw the Alpha staring at them, standing in the middle of the clearing before the cave opening. For a few minutes, both sides just do nothing but stare at each other. The Alpha's white fur and glowing red eyes made it easily stand out among the rich green scenery of the forest. Hunter and Imperial set down the doggy crates and watch as the alpha werewolf charges them and begins to pounce at Hunter. Hunter then runs and then slides under the pouncing werewolf. As the werewolf is pouncing, Hunter is shooting its chest with several crossbow bolts. The werewolf is caught off guard by this and doesn't land properly. It hits the ground with thud and rolls for a bit. After it gets back up, it heads back to the front of the cave, where Hunter is waiting for it. But before Hunter can strike, Imperial starts rapid firing again, just trying to be more focused this time. But right when the werewolf is right at the entrance of the cave, Hunter's surprise attack stabs it through the heart within a sharpened silver bolt from his crossbow. The alpha right in pain, trying to swat at Hunter and pull out the arrow bolt shoved in its chest, but a few seconds later slows and falls to the ground in a slump. Imperial and Hunter take a breath and then smile and then say, "We did it." They then pick up the dog carrier crates with the werewolf pups in them and start their long walk back to town, where they are heralded as heroes by the village people. Hunter and Imperial ask for help from the village people to go collect all the dead bodies of werewolves and eagle they left to get later. When they find out that Imperial killed an eagle, he is escorted to the courthouse to pay the fine when they find out it was an accident. And then after everything was said and done, Hunter and Imperial, when they are separate ways,